I guarantee you nobody has done what I've done. Nobody lives the way that I live. I think at the end of the day, if you say he's got an ass full of steroids, invariably some people want to look like Liver King. They want to look like me. Will you ever look like me? You know, if you want to look like me, you've already lost.
With that also comes criticism. You alluded to some of it earlier on. You said that there's a lot of critiques and stuff like that, and people that are, you know, resisting the message. And everybody's got their own agendas when they're resisting messages and their own skepticism, and we can all understand that, I guess. Joe Rogan criticized you, which I know you know about because I've heard you talk about that before. Joe Rogan's a big person in terms of his platform is big. How did that feel when he said, he alluded that you're on steroids or something like that?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Oh, cloud nine.
Really?
I mean, I've entered his ecosystem. Joe Rogan is talking about Liver King. You know how obscure I was to most of his audience before he's talking about me. And so I love it, and now I have the opportunity to engage deeper with this idea. I think it's dangerous when somebody points the finger and has a self-limiting belief about themselves or somebody else or anything for that matter. Like, it was impossible to sell a podcast for $200 million until you did it, right? It's impossible to defend the world champion title 5 times until you do it, and I guarantee you nobody has done what I've done for this many decades on end, this kind of work, this kind of depth, this kind of suffer. Nobody lives the way that I live. And so what I want is the opportunity to correct that. I want the opportunity to go on a show, talk to him face to face. At the end of the day, there is a lot of hate and there's a lot of criticism. But when I say a lot, it's probably about 5% of the vocal minority. And I tell my kids this all the time. When we talk to each other, right, these are just words, right? And these words are vibrations that go into our ears, right? And then our brain assigns meaning to it. So nobody can really offend you, right? You're assigning meaning to whatever they're saying. And so when Joe Rogan's talking about me, what I'm saying is, fuck you. I mean, I went and ran to my wife and I told her, oh my God, can you believe this? Joe Rogan is talking about me, and he's done it more than once. And so all I ask is for the opportunity to have the conversation with him face to face, because all 9 ancestral tenets allow us to express something that was otherwise impossible, right? We all have the same potential. It's not just this physical potential. Right, and I always say, at the end of the day, cheating doesn't scale. It's not sustainable and it doesn't scale, right? And what I've achieved from a financial standpoint, from a family standpoint, from a true fulfillment standpoint, I say how you do anything is how you do everything, right? This is not just, my physical, expression. I think that when you really get to know me, what I hope at the end of the day you say, your physique is the least impressive thing about you. Because at the end of the day, this is not what I'm about. I've never told anybody, start eating liver and you're gonna look like Liver King, right? What I do is I say, if you start doing these things, start every day by getting early morning sun. Put your bare feet connected, anchored, grounded into the earth, right? I show what I'm eating for dinner every day. It's usually liver, raw bone marrow, and I'm being nourished in the most profound way because my family is around me. It's these simple things that you do. Each of them shape how we look, feel, and function. And so when I enter someone's ecosystem, like Joe Rogan, I couldn't be more excited about it. And I just want to have the opportunity to have a face-to-face conversation with him about it, because I think at the end of the day, if you say, he's got an ass full of steroids, I think invariably some people want to look like Liver King. They want to look like me. And what you're saying is you got to do that if you want to look like him. And number one, I don't do it. And number two, what I want you to say is, you know what, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that guy, in fact, he did say he's in the 0.00001% of genetics if he does it naturally. But I'm here to tell you, if you do all 9 ancestral tenets, you're gonna look, feel, and function at your best. You're gonna express, will you ever look like me? If you wanna look like me, you've already lost, right? What you need to do is look like the best version of yourself. And barely, so many of us are really scratching the potential of our being. And so that's what I want. I want the opportunity to talk about that self-limiting belief mindset. I want to encourage people, get out there and do these things, and you're going to see how much more you can become.
Hardship is part of being a human. It's almost unavoidable. It'll come out of anywhere. It could be disease or loss or grief, whatever it might be. You told me about the hardship you underwent between 10 and 14 years old. What is the hardest moment of your adult life been?
The hardest moment was when my son Rad got sick, and we thought we were losing him. He lost his mind. There's something called PANDAS. It stands for pediatric autoimmune neurological disorder, something like that. And it basically is like the manifestation of like these obsessive thoughts and you can't stop thinking about these obsessive thoughts. It just takes over you. And one day he asked if a bad guy spits on the ground, and if you see that spit, does that make you a bad person? We just thought, this is the strangest question, right? Of course not. But then immediately it was like the same question, but a slight variation. If you touch the spit, if you spit on the ground, and it consumed him. And it was him asking those questions. And then one day he said, oh God, I already asked that question, didn't I? And then he realized, and it was nonstop. It was nonstop. And I remember, my wife and I just, we were crying on each other because we thought we lost him. And when you learn more about what pandas is, and how kids are kind of relegated to like a chemical straitjacket, they're sedated enough to where they're not in such torment, because it's either him constantly asking these questions, or he's screaming out of the top, out of just top of his lungs, he's screaming. And one day he said, I wish I had a baseball bat, because I would rather hit my brain and do damage to this brain than to live with this brain. And so I would say, this is probably the last rite of passage that I've been through, like to go through this with my family, and to figure it out, with him. And we figured it out. And, we had already been living this lifestyle. The only thing that we really needed to fix, I don't know if you've heard of Paul Saladino. He's a carnivore MD. He's an incredible friend. And I said, hey, man, what's going on? What's going on here? And he said, oh, my God, you guys are still eating 100% cacao chocolate and raw honey every day. Take that out of his diet. Take that out. And that's the only thing he really wanted to eat. So we took it out. He didn't really want to eat for a couple of days. And then he got better in like 3 or 4 days. So this is incredible to me. When you think that you've lost your kid, I mean, this is when they've lost their mind like this. When you read about the prognosis with kiddos with pandas, it's not good. And again, it's like the best you could do is give them enough medication to sedate them enough to take that edge off. And it took a while to figure this out. I bet it took, 6 weeks or so, maybe 8 weeks or so to do it. But we did it. And again, like by default, he didn't want to eat anything, because this is like the only thing he was wanting to eat at the time. He would eat a little of the other stuff because we forced him to. But, he by default, he pretty much fasted for a couple of days. And then he would eat because he got hungry enough. So he was eating the food that we would give him, his nose to tail meats and stuff. And he got better. And I think this is an important thing to share. My wife and I talked about this for a long time, that we wouldn't share this publicly. I don't even know why. Maybe to protect him, but I can just imagine how many kids out there that have the same thing, and the parents have lost hope. And there are so many things that can be done, you just need to continue to fight. And I don't know if he was allergic to something in the chocolate or the honey, but taking those things out, and doing a strict keto carnivore diet, maybe just doing a strict keto diet, is it so anti-inflammatory with the brain, maybe that, I don't know. But all I know is he got better, and we got him back. And what we realized is he had been suffering with lighter symptoms for the last couple of years. And we looked back at some of the pictures, and it's almost like his personality had been taken away slowly, and then it led up to this point. And then we got him better. And so this is for sure the hardest thing that I've had to deal with.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.